You decide to invest in a series of billboards along Interstate 10 to advertise your stylish new chicken restaurant, Chic fil-A. You buy 3 billboards evenly spaced, starting on mile marker 17 and ending on mile marker 28. Then you buy another 3 billboards evenly spaced, starting on mile marker 32 and ending on mile marker 36. In order from mile marker 17 to 36, your billboards display these ads: ABC, CBA. Determine how far each C ad is from your restaurant, which is located at mile marker 30. All right, so here's my solution. Now let's go ahead and break this down. So let's start by thinking about the first 3 ads. They're evenly spaced between mile marker 17 and 28. So it'd be useful if we had a tool that gave us an array of evenly spaced numbers from a start point to an end point. So let's go ahead and search Google to see if something like that already exists. So we'll say NumPy array of evenly spaced numbers. And sure enough, there's a function called linspace that returns evenly spaced numbers over a specified interval, where you give it a start, stop, and num parameters. So let's go ahead and play with that for a little bit. So I'll say np.linspace, and let's set start equal to 0, stop equals to 10, and num equal 5. So in this case, we get back a 5-element array from 0 to 10. Notice that the start and stop values here are inclusive. Now, another thing we can do is the start and stop values can be array-like values. So for example, I can set start equal to the list 0, 5 and stop as the list 10, 15. And in this case, I get back a 2-dimensional array where each column is a sequence. So for example, the first column is the sequence from 0 to 10, and the second column is the sequence from 5 to 15. Now, another parameter for linspace is axis, which by default is 0. And that means that these sequences span axis 0, the row axis. Personally, for our setup, I think it's a little bit more intuitive to use axis 1, where we can think about the billboards spanning the columns of this array. So if we want to make this match our framework, our problem, we can set the start parameters here as mile marker 17 and mile marker 32, and the stop parameters as mile marker 28 and mile marker 36. And of course, num in this case needs to be 3. So this array here represents billboards A, B, C, CBA, and where they're located. So now if we want to get the distance from each billboard to our restaurant, which is at mile marker 30, we can just take this and subtract 30. And this is close, except that we don't like negative values for distances. So let's see if NumPy has an absolute value function. Of course it does. Notice that there's a shorthand np.abs. So what we can do is we can just wrap this in np.abs, and this gives us back the absolute value or the distance from each billboard to our restaurant. So then the last thing to do is, well, we want to know how far each C ad is from our restaurant. Well, the C ads are going to be located here and here. So we just have to pick out the indices for those guys. So in this case, what we can do is we'll pass in a list of row indices and a corresponding list of column indices. So the row index for this guy is going to be 0. And the row index for this guy is going to be 1. And the column index for this guy is going to be 2. And the column index here is going to be 0. And then that gives us our desired solution.